Hello, Dr. Power. My name is Bruna Santelli, and today I will be presenting my Benchmark Ethical Dilemma presentation. Well, this presentation follows the ethical decision-making model from the Practitioner's Guide and is based on my ethical vignette paper. The dilemma I analyze involves a client asking me, his counselor, to disclose my personal history with substance use. I walk through all 7 decision-making steps, explaining the ethical, legal, and professional dimensions, and how I selected most ethical course of action. So buckle up and let's dive in. So step 1, I identify the primary problem. In my vignette, I meet new client named David who struggles with addiction and deep mistrust based on negative counseling experiences. During our first session, he asked me whether I have ever used drugs myself. This question creates an immediate ethical dilemma. Should a counselor self-disclose personal history? This is not a legal problem, as no laws or safety issues are implicated. Instead, it is a professional ethical dilemma involving boundaries, potential value imposition, and whether disclosure would benefit or possibly harm the client. These facts form the foundation of the ethical challenge. Well, we are on step 2, ACA Code of Ethics. Well, several standards directly apply to this situation. So let's dig into A5B, which states counselors must avoid imposing their personal values on clients. C2E, which restricts self-disclosure unless it clearly benefits the client. A4B, which requires counselors to avoid value imposition and respect client autonomy. A6A, encouraging reduction of stigma. Relevant here because David struggles with shame from addiction. These standards guide the decision toward what protects the client's welfare while maintaining professional boundaries. State and federal law. Well, Florida law also provides guidance. Florida Administrative Code 64B4 9.001 requires counselors to avoid dual roles, boundary violations, and any actions that may impair judgment or harm a client. Although self-disclosure is not prohibited, it must not interfere with professional functioning. Additionally, HIPAA 42 U.S.C. 1320D reinforces my obligation to uphold the client's dignity and privacy in all interactions. Together, these laws make it clear that disclosures must be clinically justified, not personally motivated. Well, in step 3, I evaluate the moral principles, which are autonomy. It requires supporting the client's right to self-direction. Beneficence requires actions that benefit the client. Non-maleficence prohibits actions that could risk harm to the client. Fidelity, it emphasizes trust and commitment to the therapeutic relationship, while veracity, last but not least, it concerns honesty. In this case, self-disclosure must meet all 5 principles. It must support the client's goals, remain truthful, maintain trust, and, most important of all, avoid causing emotional harm or shifting focus onto the counselor. Welcome to step 5, possible courses of action. I identify 4 clear possible of actions. In this case, number 1, I would consult a supervisor before responding further. That safeguards client welfare and ethical boundaries. I can also offer a brief, clinically relevant self-disclosure. I can also decline to disclose personal information and instead respond with empathy through reflection and validation. I can also do delay answering, explaining that I need to better assess the therapeutic value of this session. All four are realistic and grounded in counseling practice. Well, welcome to step 6, consequences of each option. Well, by evaluating the consequences, this is what I came out with. So, number 1, by consulting a supervisor is a low risk and ethically sound, though it kind of delays immediate clarity for the client. A brief disclosure may reduce shame and build rapport, but research shows that poorly timed disclosures shift the focus away from the client, and we don't want that. Responding with empathy alone maintains boundaries, but may cause the client to feel brushed off a little bit. So delaying disclosure gives space to assess benefit, but risks damaging trust early in treatment. Step 5, eliminating options. So by eliminating the options that pose ethical risk, that would be, full immediate self-disclosure could easily cross boundaries and burden the client. So ignoring the question altogether violates fidelity and harms rapport. We cannot lose that. I keep 3 viable strategies. Consulting my supervisor would be one. Using empathy and reflection to explore the client's need behind the question and offering minimal intentional disclosure only if clinically appropriate. So keep consultation brief, disclosure, empathy, that would be the key. Well, when it comes to nature of dilemma, ethical principles in counseling are as follows. Number 1, moral principles. The core moral principles involved are veracity, fidelity, beneficence, and non-maleficence. Guiding counselors is like navigating the complexities of self-disclosure in therapeutic relationships. Number 2, impact of self-disclosure. Self-disclosure can enhance rapport, but must be used cautiously to ensure it benefits the client, avoiding distractions that could shift the focus away from their needs. Number 3, research insights. Research by Henry and Levitt, 2010, indicates that relevant self-disclosure can build trust, while studies by Avni et al. 2025 highlight potential risks like role reversal and client burden. Balancing disclosure and rapport. It is essential to avoid full immediate disclosure or simply just brushing off the client by ignoring the client's question, as both approaches can undermine the therapeutic relationship. Rapport is something that it's the utmost important thing in between client and counselor relationship. So by building trust requires thoughtful engagement without compromising professional boundaries. So it's a balance that we as counselors should always have in mind. Well, chosen plan. Ethical actions for client engagement. Well, the most ethical action is a combination of the 3 remaining options, which are consult supervisor, minimal disclosure, and shift focus. Well, I would offer a short, relevant self-disclosure, framed in a way that centers the client, not myself. It's never about the counselor, it's always about the client. And immediately shift back to exploring the client's fears and experiences. I would also consult my supervisor to ensure accountability and document the rationale for disclosure. This approach is supported by Hill et al. 2019 and Henry and Levitt 2010, who found that brief, well-timed self-disclosures strengthen rapport without disrupting the client's process. When it comes to ethical evaluation, we have analyzing justice, publicity, and universality. By analyzing justice, we have the action is fair, consistent with ethical guidelines, and prioritizes client well-being. Publicity. If my response were made public, as in supervision, it would still be ethically defensible. Universality. If all counselors use minimal intentional client benefiting disclosure, clients would remain protected. No new ethical dilemmas arise with this course of action. Step-by-step implementation. To implement this plan, I would take 6 steps. I would pause and check my motivation. I could validate why the client is asking that question, even if it's just plain curiosity. Offer a brief self-disclosure, focus on empathy, not on detail. Immediately shift the focus back to the client's experience. I would definitely consult with a supervisor. Document the reasoning and the clinical benefit. And plus, I would reassess the impact in future sessions. These steps fully protect the client and maintain ethical integrity. Well, ethical conclusion summary. In conclusion, this ethical dilemma demonstrates the delicate balance between authenticity and professionalism. By following the ACA Code of Ethics, using supervision, applying moral principles, and prioritizing the client's autonomy and safety, self-disclosure can be used ethically and effectively. This course of action upholds boundaries, protects the client's dignity, and supports therapeutic trust. Here is the reference list that I used in today's presentation. All sources required included the ACA Code of Ethics, my state laws, the Practitioner's Guide, the course textbook, and recent scholarly research supporting ethical use of self-disclosure. Thank you, Professor, for having me in your class, and it has been a blessing.